This room is very interesting, because if we would lock the doors, we would have everybody in the room, including Randall, we would have everybody in the room to come to a solution. The problem, however, is that we also employ 16,000 lawyers that go after each and every one of you. This is the only industry in the world that employs 16,000 lawyers to complain about each other. And one of the most inspiring source for that is regulation. So, you are an indirect employer for 16,000 lawyers.
I'm happy to help.
To look to everybody's personal interest. If you listen to what you just have heard, I'm curious, where are we in the process, you think?
In the process?
Yes.
I usually say when I meet people like the distinguished guest here that I'm very happy because I'm the guy you all hate. I'm the regulator. I'm the one that you complain about in your meetings, and you said if we just didn't have regulation, it would be so much better. And if the regulator actually understood our business model, it will be so much better. The thing is, we actually do understand you, and that's why we regulate. I think that we had a lunch earlier, and I think it was an excellent lunch. And I think that we are regulators, and within BEREC, we are civil servants. We are the only people without an agenda. We are provided tools by the Commission and from the national parliaments to do something, and that's what we try to do. And I think we're in the process. And when we try to talk to you, we try to talk to you out of an industry perspective. I think BEREC, the current chair and the former chair, which is sitting here, is trying to have that discussion with you, but you always come back to us and say that, yeah, but the only thing we want to do is regulate. I would think that we are the people who don't want to regulate at all. We want to have an open market that actually works, because we work with ex-ante regulation, and the whole aspect of ex-ante regulation is the fact that we'd like to take away the barriers for you to compete so we can go home and do something differently. In terms of the process, I agreed with some of the distinction that Europe is bleak. But we don't really see all the problems, because there are, as the French minister just said, there are more problems than just telecom regulation. And there is also big differences within Europe. I know I'm from Sweden, and my Scandinavian and Baltic countries, we look up some of the problems, because I have 100%, almost 100% 4G coverage in Sweden. 60% of everybody has 100 megabit and more, and I got 300 households, last counting, that doesn't have access to internet, broadband internet. So my life could be fairly easy. My fellow operators from Sweden and the Nordics won't agree, but I think my job is a little bit easier than most of you. There is a big difference. I see the big difference between the operators as well. From BEREC, we've said that the goal of the Commission is very important. We believe it's very important to fix whatever problem there is. We have some distinctions where the problems are, and therefore we're, together with the Commission, working on to see if there is anything. We will give an official opinion about what we think about the different aspects of the proposal later. But it is a very important topic, and the regulators is very much there to give their expert views. Because looking at me, you can probably see I'm not a politician anyway, so we will give a very firm view.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, looking from the outside in, what have you heard today, and what's your view? And you have a full minute to answer it.
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, thank you for inviting us. For Business Europe, we have to represent the overall business interests. So what we heard and how we look into it. I mean, first, I'd like to say, of course, the digital agenda is much more than ICT and telecommunication. It will heavily affect the whole industry, from machine to cloud. So this is something which is about to produce the industry of the 21st century, or we're already there. So it's very important for us. I mean, having listened to the debate today, and of course being aware of what happened in the last decade, we are still concerned. I mean, I will not enter into the debate. I would agree with the goals of the Commission's proposal, and we very much acknowledge that the Commission tries to put us back on track again. And I would say there's positive elements in this proposal we very much value. But I would also agree with Luigi that this is a starting point. I think there is still a lot of things to improve. And we are not sure whether we are there now and we have heard it today. I mean, When I went first to the US, I mean, we already, well, no, later, but we all had mobiles already, and they were running around with the beepers. We know what happened to Nokia. We know when we go to Washington in order to prepare the TTIP negotiations, which didn't have place now, but we will go more often because the Americans apparently cannot come over for the time being. We have the 4G everywhere on our mobiles. So we know that we have to do something, and as I see it, as you said, looking outside in, more or less, so looking at the globe, I think we have a strange mixture in our model in Europe. I mean, in the US, you invest, and you can be sure that you would get a certain margin out of it. In Asia, the state would invest more, and then can, of course, have a longer wish list. In Europe, we have this hybrid where you not really have the certainty you would need in order to invest and to move us forward. So I would agree, of course, that many of the aspects in the Commission proposal are very positive, and that many things will be necessary to move forward to this real internal digital market. But I also know that we will have to incentivize the investment, and it's of course a pity that we cut this Connecting Europe facility post in the multi-annual financial framework from 9 to 1 billion. But, final sentence, but very important, but I also know that in order to invest, I mean, you can incentivize, but companies need to have a sufficient margin of profit and sufficient cash flow in order to be able to do so. So I will not enter into the debate in detail, but my statement is we will have to bear this in mind. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner, if I would give words around the feelings in this room, I guess it is this. You have said it will be a dish that's called sweet and sour. But we first have to eat an enormous amount of sour before we get to the sweet. And as an amateur cook, I can tell you, if you serve a dish like that, you get sour faces. So, can you give us a feel for when the sweet and when the sour? The sour we know, it's up front. But when the sour becomes sweeter?
Number one, we should be aware that what by a couple of you is seen as sour, just touching upon roaming, is anyhow finalizing. 2016, it's over, even if there was no commissioner with this purpose. So that having said, it is, and what I was mentioning and put it in a question, what are you doing with the profit that you are getting out of your roaming so far? What are you investing? And I dare to say you are not. You are just putting it in dividend paying back. And what for me is the most important part now, and it is mentioned by as well Fleur as Luigi, that investment are absolutely main for getting a position for Europe that is competitive. Well, here we are, and that is the difference at the beginning of this whole process when the potential investors were saying in itself the infrastructure, the broadband, is an attractive investment, but not when it is not predictable, talking about the political parts, and not when it is not consistent and transparent. And that was my best day recently when a couple of days ago, 6 very important investors were saying, this is what we are looking for, and now we can invest. So here we are.
Still, when we will see that pan-European passport really taking off? Because critics say it's very easy to go after roaming, because everybody understands what it is, and you can just skip it. But it's very difficult to get the sweet side of your story because it's very complex, a lot of people have opinions, so it will take ages. So can we get the same motivation and passion behind the one as the other?
I'm the one who has said from day one on, when this package was at stake, that it is a package and it is not a menu, so no dish picking, so to say. And when I'm saying it's a package, I'm talking about the operators. I'm talking about all those who are involved. And that means that indeed less bureaucracy, less red tape, and more transparency. And that is in this proposal And when it's accepted like that, then we can go.
So it's also not it is also not a menu for the Parliament. It is also not a menu for the Council. It's also not a menu for my friends. You don't have enemies. Friends from the regulators. It's for everybody a package. Is that what you say?
It is a package. For otherwise, you can't expect, when you are only taking what sweet is for some and sour for the others, that it is a balanced package. This is a balanced package, and we can immediately implement this. And therefore, I'm indeed asking you, if we are not in a hurry now, and some of you were mentioning that it should be done, but we have to look ahead and so on. Well, I'm constantly looking ahead, but I'm also aware that I have to deliver. And this is delivering this package as soon as possible, for time is not your friend in this situation.
Madam Minister, are you for postponing?
Well, it will be for the head of states and head of governments to decide
But they will listen
at
to
the
you.
at the end of the month. But no, I really agree with Commissioner Kroes on the objectives, which are, and I think everybody in the room agrees to say that the telecom operators need to have margins to invest and to find the capacities to invest in order to bridge the gap that is widening between the states who are investing very rapidly in 4G and very high-speed broadband and Europe. But what I feel right now is, when I read the proposal, is I don't really see what in this proposal will help the sector to invest more rapidly, actually. So I see a very interesting food for thought, as I said, in terms of net neutrality, management of spectrum, but from a very concrete point of view or perspective, I cannot really understand what will, to which extent this proposal will help boost investment in Europe. So I don't see the correlation between the objective and the tools that are proposed. So I think we need to really discuss with BEREC and to continue the consultation to really think things over, because it's very these proposals are very structuring and important for the sector. So they can give the right framework for building this digital economy that we want to build in Europe, but I think we need a bit more time, even if I know that time is not obviously on our side, but we need more time to discuss strategic issues.
You wanted to react?
Yes, please. For it's not a matter. It is not a matter of just taking a bit more time and having a bit more intense discussions. It is also taking into account that we are indeed in a very scarce time schedule. And what do I mean with that? This can be done when we are taking the opportunities with the EU Council, with the Council of Ministers, with Parliament, and in the meantime discussing with BEREC a couple of issues that are at stake. We can deliver before the election of the European Parliament. And that is otherwise a 3 years delay. And then it's up to you. Do you still have a situation where you can permit a 3 years delay? For it is a new Parliament, it is a new Commission, and having said that, and Fleur was mentioning about the investment, who is going to invest. Well, what I was mentioning in my remarks, it is the investor. It are the big investors. And just quoting a couple of them, so it's not me who could misunderstand those investors. One of them, we think that the process of marketing repair is now underway. That will lift the entire telecom sector, promote the network investment that Europe's economy desperately needs, and power lower unit prices for customers. So that is the tendency of those investors. Well, why are we waiting?
So I'm running 5 minutes over time already, and I'm hired just for one thing, to be on the clock. So I negotiate another 2 minutes, and then we're absolutely going to do it. Luigi, you get 30 seconds.
May I say something, because I received many requests also on what is our position of the operators. And I want to, because I want to take the occasion that Nelly Cruz is with us. And our intention, we don't want, as far as European ETNO, as I'm speaking on behalf of ETNO, we don't want, our intention is not to block the regulation. Obviously, we will work in order to improve this regulation, because as I said, we see that there are parts we like and other parts we don't like, and we see that there is the need to improve it. And one of the major points in the general that we want to point is that we need to try to simplify the system. In Europe, the system, also the institution one, is very complex. We need to find a way to simplify the system. And then, what is our argument that was in my speech? That we believe that this regulation is not enough. We will need, in the future, other measures, because our sector, we share with Commissioner Cruz the diagnosis of the problem. We know what are the problems, but we believe that other measures are needed in order to solve the problem and to do what? To come back to growth, because we need this sector, our industry need to grow again, and I think we have the same goal.
So I feel very much as I am in the midst of a few doctors to all agree on the diagnosis part, but fundamentally disagree about the medicine I'm about to get, and that's a very uncomfortable feeling. Now, it may help if you talk to a doctor who already went through this whole process and who is outside playing alive and kicking and dancing because he feels so happy about where he or she is right now, instead of us talking about the diagnosis and the medicine. So we're going to the next phase where we're going to listen to Randall Stevenson, the CEO of AT&T. But before we do that, I would like to thank all of you for participating. You have been crystal clear in what you think. You have been very forthcoming in your differences. In the past, it was sometimes different. I think this is extraordinarily helpful. And I apologize to you too. This has been grossly injustice from a time perspective, but I hope you will forgive me. Thank you very much. Dan, floor is yours.